Hello, and welcome to LinkedIn Live. This is Sharon Delaney McLeod. I'm so delighted you all are joining us. We're actually broadcasting on LinkedIn Live, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live. And I am so delighted to welcome to our broadcast Jeffrey Hawting, who is president of LCI. Jeffrey, it's so lovely to see you here today.
Thank you, Sharon. I've never seen so many lives. I'm sort of honored to be live 3 times. That's great.
Live at all of us. If I could ask you to do this, to turn down the speaker on your end so that we don't have feedback.
Sure.
I think we might be okay. We're having a little bit of bandwidth issues for some reason. There we go. Now we're back on again. Excellent. All right. So for folks who have not heard of LCI, Jeffrey, I would love for you to give us a primer. Those of us who have come to learn and interact and meet your team at LCI, we are just all in. We believe in what you are doing so much and want you all to succeed and thrive as you have for more than 80 years. But go ahead and give us the backstory of LCI.
Sure. Great. I love talking about LCI and its history. You know, started in 1936, right after the Great Depression, and there were several nonprofits like LCI that started around that time. Because you think about it, coming out of the Great Depression, so many people out of work, and then this group of businessmen in Durham recognized that for people who had a disability, it was even more profound, the whole being able to find work. So they started this project, as we call it. Wasn't really a fully fledged company at that point. But it was really just providing employment opportunities for people who are blind. And in 1941, at the very beginning of the Second World War, LCI started making mattresses for the Department of Defense. And really, for the next 25 years, that's all they made were mattresses. And we still make mattresses today here in Durham. But then over the years, the company evolved. And the president and CEO at that time, Bill Hudson, kept asking, well, what else can we do? How else can we fulfill our mission of finding meaningful employment for people who are blind? And so Bill expanded manufacturing into so many different areas: file folders, shredders, light sticks, locks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we grew and grew in our manufacturing. Then in the mid-90s, we had the opportunity to start operating supply stores on many military bases. And LCI really helped spearhead that program. And that was a great outlet for us to take the products that we manufacture, sell them into our customer base. That spawned another business, which was distribution. And we now today have 2 very large distribution centers where we fulfill products for many customers who are wanting to get their products distributed. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, we again asked ourselves, how can we continue to evolve and fulfill our mission? And so we recognized, we're not in the technology sector. We're not in the knowledge economy, so to speak. Like, you know, it's not that manufacturing, running retail stores and distribution doesn't take brain power, but there are many people who are blind who would love to work in technology and in a service type sector. So then we founded LCI Tech. That became Abler last year, and that is just a wonderful company where we provide accessibility and disability consulting. So we have 85 years of dynamic evolution fulfilling that mission to find meaningful employment for people who are blind.
It's a terrific story, and I'd like to unpack it a little bit.
Yeah.
First of all, I think folks in this area, people in the Raleigh-Durham Triangle area, have no idea that this is right here in our own backyard, that for 85 years, LCI has been one of the largest employers of Americans who are blind and low vision. Right. Beyond the national headquarters there in Durham, off of Emperor Boulevard, you all have 7 other locations around the country. Is that correct?
Well, we have 7 other manufacturing locations, but
right.
We actually have about 60 locations. We operate in 13 states, everywhere from Alaska down to Florida, from New York up on the Canadian border all the way down to Nevada. So we sort of cover the country. And quite honestly, on our manufacturing, 8 locations, 4 states, Mississippi, Kentucky, Florida, and North Carolina. So we tend to find areas where there is a large section of the population that might be blind or low vision, where people are looking to find employment. And that's where we have focused over the years.
Now, when you say all those other locations, those are the base stores.
Many of them are, yes. We have almost 50 stores on military bases, and they are providing mission-critical products for our nation's Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. Correct.
Now, within the manufacturing and in the distribution, you all have loads and loads of products.
Yes.
And the funny thing is, a lot of people, I don't think, realize that they can actually go to your website, a second website that's attached to LCI called buylci.com, BUY, and people can actually purchase right from your company directly. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. So you're right. We make about 2,500 different products in several different categories: office products like file folders, presentation portfolios, computer mice, keyboards. We have a lot of cleaning, what we call JanSan or janitorial sanitation products, a lot of break room cleaning, break room products. We injection mold almost 2 billion pieces of plastic flatware a year, which we've been doing for many, many years. And that's all on our website. We make locks, we do chemical light sticks, we do shredders. And it goes on and on. Key cabinets, many different products. So yes, you go to buylci.com and you will have access to the products that we make, and also many of the other products made by other nonprofits that also have a similar mission to us.
Now, here's the crux of it.
Yes.
There is the opportunity for people to order and buy these things from any number of companies. But if you are a mission-driven person and you want to do something that you can actually connect the dots to see where that impact is, LCI is a great place for that. And let's talk a little bit about, Jeffrey, the mission, because when we look at unemployment rates among people who have a disability, it's something like 70%. It's
Correct.
A shockingly high amount. And it's not because these people don't want to work. It's mostly because people don't want to give them the chance, the opportunity.
You're so right, Sharon. It is all about opportunity and creating a level playing field. So when you hire someone who might have a visual impairment or who is 100% legally blind, could be totally blind, there is work, a commitment you make. There's intentionality around making that job accessible, making the workplace accessible, making your systems accessible. So LCI commits to that. And through our ABLA, the work we do with ABLA now, through our disability inclusion consulting, through our accessibility consulting, we are helping other companies also level that playing field, create an equal opportunity. So it is part of our mission. And quite frankly, we are challenged just as much as any other company. We use commercial off-the-shelf software, for example, made by Microsoft and other leading technology providers. But we have to take that extra step and find a way to make that software accessible so that our employees who are blind have the opportunity to work in finance, IT, HR, et cetera, not just work also in manufacturing or in our stores or distribution. So it is some intentionality that LCI brings, but we really want to work with companies to help them also move that unemployment needle of 70% and get that down.
Exactly.
Way
Now,
too high.
I do want to invite people to send us questions in the chat. We are monitoring the chat, and so we do want to answer your questions. Here's some of the things. So if I'm at a company and we're all looking for employees right now, I think, you've probably heard this term, the Great Resignation. There
Yes.
are across many industries, people are having a very difficult time finding employees rather. We have help wanted signs all over the place, from hospitality to healthcare to the service industries. Now, if people would broaden their scope as to who they're recruiting, what kinds of candidates that they're looking for, I think there would be a massive opportunity for people with different abilities to get those opportunities to come into your company to do great work. It doesn't mean just because someone is differently able that they're going to do any lesser quality work. They're doing excellent work. They just have to be given a shot.
That is exactly right. It is all about opportunity. You know, we're celebrating next week the 31st anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And, you know, that act was all about creating equal opportunity, right? Equal opportunity. So what you're saying there, Sharon, about, okay, what can companies are really desperate for hiring good workers right now. I saw it. I was on a little bit of vacation last week, and I drove through 10 states, and I saw billboard after billboard, help wanted, we're hiring, right? Saw it everywhere. And, you know, for people who are blind, they have dreams, aspirations, just like everyone else, right? They want the dignity of work. And so we really want to work with companies to help them take that step. And there's steps you have to be really focused on it. In other words, how can I make my recruiting process more accessible? How can I make my onboarding process more accessible? What accommodations do I need to make? It's not that difficult. And people, I think employers sometimes get afraid that it might be too onerous, or they might end up in some sort of litigation because they didn't do it right. If you have good intention and you work with experts like us, it's really not that difficult. It just takes a commitment. But you're right, there is great untapped American workforce there with people who are differently abled, who want the opportunity to work.
And, you know, part of that message, as you mentioned, next week is the 31st anniversary of the signing of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Our sister company that you're talking about, Abler, which was officially launched in October of last year during National Disability Employment Awareness Month, they're doing a webinar, and they have some fantastic guests that are really going to be helpful in showing people how you can drive inclusivity and then tap into this great workforce that really is there and ready to start working. And if people would just open their eyes a bit more and their hearts, they'll see that there's some amazing talent and candidates ready. So let's talk about some of the folks. So on July 28th, that is the day that the webinar is happening. And we'll also put this I'll put this into the chat so that people can refer to it. But it's going to be a noon webinar. It's free. And it's some of the guests. We have Hannah Rose Olson, who is founder and CEO of Chronically Capable. Yes. Dan Gonzalez, who is co-founder of District C, Lindsay Regg, co-founder and CEO of 321 Coffee. Big fan of Lindsay's. Anyone in the Raleigh-Durham area has probably tried 321 Coffee. It's fantastic. And Tim O'Brien, research economist at RTI International. And then, of course, Shannon Garner, who is an accessibility analyst with Abler. Let's talk a little bit about what people will learn at this webinar, Jeffrey.
Sure. So the title of the webinar is Disability Works, How to Drive Inclusivity Post-COVID. So really, you know, I think it sort of speaks for itself. I love the juxtaposition of words, disability works, right? Because oftentimes people think disability works, it doesn't, but you know, that's the beauty of what we're trying to promote here. And that in this post-COVID world where we need more than ever people to come to work and to join the economy and keep making the economy strong, I think the focus of this webinar will be, okay, how can we help companies really bring more people, especially people who are differently abled, who might have a disability, how do we get them into the workforce? And how can we truly make a difference in their lives and help fulfill some of their dreams? So I think the webinar is really, you got some great speakers there, as you mentioned, from Chronically Capable District C, 321 Coffee, RTI International, and our own superstar, Shannon Garner. So I think it could be a great webinar with some good information. It's free. It's Wednesday at noon.
Yeah, so I'll pop that into the chat in a few minutes once we get a chance to. I've got different computers going here. I want to make sure I don't press the wrong button and end our broadcast. But moving on to another question, I'd love to ask you, Jeffrey. I promised our audience that today they would be meeting a servant leader, because that's the way I would describe you, Jeffrey. And I think you hear that term tossed around a good bit. But when I think of a servant leader, you are one of the first people that comes to mind, Jeffrey, because you lead with your heart in all things that you do. And so how would you describe that approach to leadership and really wanting to serve others?
Well, I appreciate the feedback, Sharon. I guess I learned a long time ago that there's never one way of seeing anything, and that if you truly cannot put yourself into someone else's shoes or put their hat on or look at life through their lens, you miss out on a whole lot, right? My perspective is just one stunted view of the world in my view. And that what makes us richer as human beings is our ability to see and experience life how others might see it and experience it as well. So I think that sort of drives my leadership style. I try hard to again, just see life and to approach problems by trying to understand how the other person might experience it as well. And I do believe that at the end of the day, I think one of the greatest personal traits that I try and live out is compassion. And I just think that's something that is critically important. I tell her, it's probably too long of a story to tell on this short conversation. But when I was 4 years old, my mother was walking down the street and she started to see double. And she went to the doctor immediately, and the doctor said, "You have a brain tumor." And he sent her straight to the hospital. And I'm accelerating the story. And almost immediately went into surgery in 1959. And in those days, brain surgery was really a big deal. They told her before she went into the surgery that she would come out of it paralyzed in her left foot. And she did. And for the rest of her life, she was paralyzed in her left foot. She had to wear a caliper on her leg. And so she had a disability. And she lived with that disability till the day she died. And she lived till she was 80, and early 80s, 82. And so that, I think there was something about that experience that for me, it helped me understand the gift and the need for compassion and the need for respect for all people. Simple little story, but things color our lives, and that colored my life. And it's probably helped me in my leadership style over the years and develop into the sort of person I want to be, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think a term that we often hear, or a phrase that our friend John Samuel says, proximity builds empathy.
Yes.
And until you can walk in someone else's shoes, it's very difficult to have an empathetic heart about it.
Yeah, and I would say working at LCI has really helped foster that within me, because I love just walking throughout the company, whether it's in the corporate office, in any of our locations, and to talk with our employees and to see the dedication that everyone has to their job. I mean, we have 4 core values at LCI. The first core value is mission driven, and everyone knows it. We know that's our first core value. It's our most important. And when you are mission driven, I think that just makes all the difference, because you realize you get up every day and you go, okay, how can we make a difference? How can we collectively make a difference and provide one more job, one at a time, chip away, one more job, one more opportunity And I think that's just an amazing. It's a privilege, honestly, for me to be doing what I'm doing.
I love that. And that being the first and foremost of the core values, and something that you often say when you're describing the work that you all do and the goal to provide employment for differently abled people is by it's dignity, by having the ability to make your own way, right?
Yes, absolutely. This country is probably way more ahead of many countries when it comes to the legislation and the work they've done to support and give equal opportunity for people, especially people who are differently abled. And we have a great social safety net through the SSDI and things like that, Social Security Disability Insurance. But at the same time, while we applaud these sorts of safety nets, we really don't want them to be an excuse for holding people back from getting the dignity of work. There is something profoundly transformational about having a job and getting a paycheck and interacting with coworkers and all of those things. Are jobs challenging at times? Of course. But, if you don't have a job, so many people get depressed and get, lose hope. But work and the dignity of work and the dignity of, we've got so many employees who've bought a house, so taken their family on vacations, sent their kids to college. That to me is the dignity that comes from work. And that is, you cannot replace that. Right?
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. I wanted to ask you this.
Yes.
What is one thing, Jeffrey, that you believed in your soul to be right for the longest time and then realized it was wrong, or something changed profoundly?
Oh, that's a tough question. Something that I believed was, okay, so I think for the longest time, Sharon, I believed that leaders were born leaders. And what I mean by that, early in my career, I'd look at big, leaders, and I've worked for small companies. I've worked for Fortune 100 companies, and now I work for a dynamic nonprofit. But I've looked at leaders and I thought, wow, those people, they were born leaders. How can someone get to that level, right? Well, they had to be born that way. And then it finally dawned on me, maybe it wasn't until I had this opportunity to do what I'm doing now, that I realized leaders aren't born. You can become and grow into leadership, right? And things like, I guess another way of answering it is that leaders don't always have to have every idea. They don't have to be the smartest person in the room. And so for me, I think, leaders are just as much made as they are born. And everyone that aspires to lead can do so if they just have that desire and are open and are willing to grow and be vulnerable and all of those things. So I think that's one thing, I guess, that I just thought, well, if you don't have the genes, it's not going to happen.
Not in the cards for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and coming off of that, was there a specific person looking back in your career that was a leader that was truly influential on you, that you learned a lot from, that you can point to and say, gosh, this person really made such an impact on me? And what was that one thing that is so memorable that you might use in your day-to-day thinking?
I worked for about 15 years at Office Depot, great company, and I really enjoyed that time. And I had the opportunity there to work with a great leader called Bill Morris. And Bill was from Philadelphia. He grew up in the business from the factory floor sort of thing. He worked in the distribution center at Boise Cascade that eventually got bought and morphed into Office Depot at some point. But he was someone who worked his way up, and he was a hustler. He was a pool player. He was a pool shark. and he would go to many pool halls and make great money playing pool. But the point about Bill was he never forgot where he came from. And he had great mentoring skills. He loved to talk with me, give me feedback, challenge me, push me when needed to be pushed, and just was someone who was so honest and also compassionate, right? He had a great care for the people that he worked with. But what I love is he just never forgot where he came from. And so he was always willing to give someone a helping hand, right? To help pull them up, to help them in their career. And unfortunately, he retired, and then he was playing golf, and he had a heart attack on the golf course.
Oh my goodness.
So I think very, very fondly of Bill because he was honest, he was authentic. You always knew where you stood with him. He was all about the business. He knew how to have fun, but he always never forgot where he came from. I think that was just a great example for me to emulate his type of leadership. Yeah, I really loved Bill. He was a great man.
That's great. And you should probably jot down some of the fun stories that you might have shared with him over the years to look back on. That would be great. Now, for people who haven't met you before or heard you speak, Jeffrey, people might be saying, "Oh, you ain't from around here." Clearly, with your lovely lilt and your charming accent. You came to the States from Australia. Is that right? Yes.
I did. Came here to study in 1985, did a master's degree at Catholic University, worked here for a couple of years, got a green card. And then about 3 or 4 years, 4 years later, 3 or 4 years later, did a total career change and had the opportunity to get into sales. And I took that opportunity. And, you know, I just never went back to Australia to live, ended up staying here and have a career here, have a wonderful, wonderful wife, Chrissy, and my 2 children, Kate and Matthew. And so I'm just extremely, I mean, America is just, I think, when I say the land of opportunity, I look at myself and say, yes, that is absolutely correct. I have been given lots of great opportunities, but I did love growing up in Australia. It was a wonderful place to grow up. Absolutely.
And have you brought your family back at all?
Oh, yes, many times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yep.
Okay.
I think, you know, at least 4 or 5 times.
Excellent.
And we will, once COVID is fully over, we'll get back again another time. But
that's great. It's on my
wonderful
bucket
place.
list. Yeah. Excellent. Listen, Jeffrey, it has been lovely chatting with you today. How can people reach out to you, get to know you? Because I think that the other piece I just wanted to mention before we finish up is that not only does LCI provide amazing opportunities for differently abled people, they also provide all these amazing products. However, there's an opportunity for people to get distribution or parts of kitting or different things done. So there could be local companies here in the Triangle area or elsewhere that LCI could help them get to the finish line, right?
Right. I mean, I think if there's a message, anyone can reach out to me through my LinkedIn page. I'm very happy to get inquiries that way, or just call. Look at lcindustries.com and there'll be a way to contact me there. But, you know, one of our great successes over the years is when we have partnered with other companies, and we have partnered with many over the years where we have done either subcontracting work for them, or they have work that they really don't want to do for whatever reason. And we can find a way to do it for them, whether it's manufacturing your product, whether it's distributing your product, whether it's kitting. We have a very, very vibrant kitting business where we buy component parts, kit them, and send them out to customers. So if you're someone who has a need for kitting or manufacturing or any assembly work, LCI is the company to talk to. So we would love to talk with you. Reach out to my LinkedIn reach out to me through my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, and so contact Jeffrey directly, and he'll be able to give you a tour that will change your heart and mind, and it's really a lovely thing. You can also take a quick peek of LCI. We have a video on the LCI website where you can do a virtual tour if you're not local and you'd like to see what they're all about. And thank you again, Jeffrey, for sharing some of your story about LCI, the mission-driven work you're doing, and your servant leader heart. Thank you for sharing your time with us today, Jeffrey.
Sharon, it has been my absolute pleasure. You're a wonderful host, and I am just thrilled to be able to have the time to speak with you. And I really hope that our time together has helped other people understand that it really is an incredible opportunity to find employment opportunities for people who are blind or differently able. So if we can help you in that way, please reach out to us. Thank you, Sharon.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.